Today we're going to hear from great rural leaders and former USDA rural development officials about why the programs and services that rural development provide to rural America are so incredibly important. This builds on a series of rural development hearings that this subcommittee has had in recent years. Last Congress, we examined programs that support broadband, energy, water systems, rural businesses and industry, rural cooperatives, and biomanufacturing. USDA rural development is uniquely positioned to serve our rural communities. Today we'll learn about the various programs that provide needed investment in our rural communities, essential infrastructure, small businesses, and economic development.
And especially in a district like the 1st Congressional District, 22 counties, 100% of the counties are rural. We're here for a really important reason today. And I think about the investments that are made, and as these investments are made in rural America, it makes a huge difference. This past Saturday, I showed up at Nashville Fire Department for the ribbon cutting of Fire Station number 2. It could not have happened without rural development. The Community Facilities Program granted help for this fire station. The Community Facilities Program provides affordable funding to build and construct essential rural community facilities, such as firehouses, police stations, and community centers.
Our mission is simple. We want to ensure that even the smallest communities and businesses have a trusted partner in building economic resilience and prosperity to help sustain rural America. One of our most vital partners in this work is USDA's Rural Development Mission Area, known as RD. Today I want to highlight the critical role regional development organizations, or RDOs, play in supporting rural communities and offer some practical recommendations to strengthen RD's programs and services. Rural America faces unique challenges. Nearly 1 in 7 Americans live in rural areas, which span 3/4 of the nation's landmass. These communities often struggle with limited infrastructure, higher poverty rates, fewer job opportunities, and reduced access to broadband, health care, and housing.
Rural development programs don't just provide funding, they transform communities. They're the difference between a hospital staying open, a small business hiring instead of closing, and a farmer finding a new market for their products. Earlier this year, the National Rural Lenders Association released a landmark assessment of the business and industry, the B&I Loan Guarantee Program. The findings confirm what rural communities already know, that these programs work. From 2014 to 2022, the B&I program created more than 750,000 jobs in rural America, and at a federal cost of just $438 per job. Counties with B&I investment saw sustained employment growth, higher wages, a stronger GDP per capita for years after the initial investment. A 1% increase in B&I investment translates into a 0.55% increase in state sales tax revenue, a direct return to local and state economies. These are not abstract numbers. They show that rural development programs provide one of the highest returns on investment of any federal initiative serving rural America.
Rural development is the only agency in DC with a focus on rural America. That experience matters. I've worked with staff whose early experience providing housing or water loans in rural places has made them more able to stretch flexibilities in the midst of a disaster or save thousands of dollars on applications and reporting for rural people.
But I'm curious, from your perspective as a county commissioner of a rural county, what do you see as the keys to improving rural health outcomes, and how can USDA help achieve those improvements?
Well, fundamentally, keeping the funding programs that have been historically supporting rural health care in place is a huge one. We need to look at new solutions in rural communities. The old models aren't working, and we need to have the capacity to pull together models that might be combining with another county, or combining with other entities in the region, and looking at a new way of delivering it. And we need the funding. It takes inventive thinking, and it takes different funding sources. It's a fundamental issue, and it's really pushing up to the crisis level in rural America.
Believe it or not, there are still people living without running water. They have to haul water to their homes to drink and bathe. To me, in 2025, that's unacceptable. And helping rural communities is the reason I ran for Congress in the first place. USDA Rural Development has been a great partner to many areas within Southern Ohio, but I use that story to highlight that there is much more work to be done. And I believe several of the rural development programs could help us bridge the gap to get everyone connected to basic utilities. Everyone in the United States, regardless of their address, should be able to receive running water.
You know, in my view, it's essential that Congress and the USDA continue to work to supply our rural communities with the tools they need so these communities can economically thrive. And I think we've got to, you know, remember, we are all here because we care deeply about rural communities. And I would argue the reason everyone should care about rural communities is rural communities are where the values that make America are still alive and well, which I would say are things like faith, family, hard work, personal responsibility, caring for our neighbors. But we've got to make sure that we keep our rural communities going, because that's where these values are still alive and well. So there's a lot at stake, and again, I just appreciate y'all for being here.
I tell people back home all the time that, you know, if we were to run our townships, our county boards, our city councils, our church boards like Congress and like our politics of today is run, we would get nothing done. But somehow, in some way, in some fashion, rural America is still figuring it out. Because we have that idea that we can sit across the table with someone we don't agree on and everything, but we're driven to making our backyard better. And that's what really the secret sauce, I think, is in rural development. And quite frankly, it is something that we need to actually grow and to hold up as something that can help us in rural America.